Hey, what's up everyone? I wanted to make this video about my bodybuilding journey and the process of prep because I was asked about how my macros changed and calories changed throughout, and I thought it'd be really interesting to share. So before we get into this, just a disclaimer, of course, if you follow my macros, you will not get the same results. I know that's kind of common sense for most of us, but my macros are quite high. And in fact, I think more than 50% of women would gain weight if they ate the way that I ate. So please do not follow them. You have to find this for yourself. There's many different factors as why someone's calories might be higher than another's. First of all, I'm still breastfeeding. Second of all, I have a lot of muscle mass on me. I'm really active. I hate sitting still. My day is go, go, go until 8:30 p.m. and then I sleep quite quickly. I also have a 2-year-old who's 12 kilos who makes me always hold her when we have to walk uphill. So there's a lot of different variables as to why my calories are higher. But just a disclaimer, you need to find this on your own. You need to hire a coach, someone who can monitor you so that you have an objective point of view. So when we think about bodybuilding, we think of just the prep, we think of just the cut. However, I was with Scott for over a year and we were planning over a year, so 14 months until I was going to compete. And so I started with him in February 1st of 2023. I'm using my daughter's coloring book as a reference. And what we did for the first probably month of working together was essentially we were in a maintenance, we were in a health phase. So we were just trying to figure out what was my maintenance calories. This was hugely important to me because I was someone who was really scared of carbohydrates. I ate like paleo style for the majority of my 20s. So the amount of carbohydrates I ate, I just thought had to be much lower than what it really was. And so finding my maintenance and including things like rice, pasta in my everyday eating, but weighing it so I knew what I could have was really eye-opening to me and quite healing. It made my daily eating diversify so much more. And I'm really grateful that I had that experience. So if you're someone who's similar to me, I almost would wish that most people weren't in such a rush to lose weight and rather let themselves find maintenance. Look, the reality is you haven't lost weight right now. Just let yourself live 2 months the way you are to find your maintenance and live your maintenance before doing anything else. So for me, my maintenance calories ended up being 2,450. So we started at I think around 2,000 and I lost a lot of weight. So then he had to keep adding them. So it took a couple weeks to figure it out. But once I got to 2,450 calories, my scale wouldn't budge, not even by 100 grams. I can't tell you how weird that is to step on the scale every day, eating as much carbohydrates as I was, and my scale not flinching. We found the scientific perfect number, and I was weighing my food. With it being 2,450 calories, that was with 150 grams of protein, and I think at the time I was consuming 60 grams of fat. Whatever the leftover was carbohydrates. So I'm someone who, of course, enjoys higher fat. Some people might take their fat count down to 45 grams. If I'm in a maintenance or a build phase, I'm definitely going to 60 to 80 grams of fat. It's just my personal preference. I don't need super high carbs in every meal, but with saying that, I still would have been having like 200 grams of carbs in that day. So it's still quite high. So once we were in that maintenance phase for a while, we then went into our build phase. So we started at 2,650 calories. So essentially from March to May, that's where I was kind of living in. I was gaining just 100 to 200 grams a week. So nothing too crazy, but I was just slowly trying to build muscle. I was pushing it really hard in the gym. I was only doing 2 cardio sessions a week just for cardiovascular health. But ultimately the goal was build muscle. In May, I started to plateau. So as you would expect, just like in weight loss, in weight gain, your body will plateau. Your body's metabolism will become more efficient to work with what's happening in its environment. And so for us, we had to increase the calories more. So we went up to 2,790, so almost 2,800 calories. And I was there for about a month or two before going up to 3,000 calories. So before I even started prep, we had increased my calories from 2450 to 3000 calories. And again, everything was weighed, everything was tracked. I would still have a free dinner every week. And to be honest, I played with my macros a lot. So I never had a meal plan, but I was quite accurate with my food. And the accuracy is what gives me the freedom. If I wasn't accurate, we wouldn't have been able to increase my calories because the results would have been all over the place. So there's so much freedom in weighing and tracking your food, because then you start to figure out what your metabolism is doing. And from there, you can start to increase even more. So at 3000 calories, I was probably having, at least 80 grams of fat in my day. Of course, 150 grams of protein, but then that's a lot of carbohydrates. So I was really able to enjoy quite a lot. And even in saying that, I was still only gaining about 100 to 200 grams a week. So from February to the end of my build phase, which was the end of October, I had only put on about 6 to 7 kilos total. And that was slow and gradual. And the idea is hopefully a big chunk of that was muscle and only a little bit of fat. But with all build phases, we do gain fat as well. It's just part of it. And you have to be okay with that. The big picture is you're sculpting your body. And in order to do that, we have to build fat and muscle onto our structure. Something that bodybuilding really taught me was we cannot spot reduce. Like, we all know that. It's not like if you want to have skinnier legs, you can stop eating and then that part of your muscle will go down. It's not the way it works. Your whole body will lose fat, not just one area. But when you're intelligently building your structure, what happens is you do change the shape of your body by specifically not training your quads, but training your glutes. So the muscle's going to that area. So then when you do lose the weight, you are changing the shape of your body. And that's pretty empowering to figure out, you know? Like, I always thought it was just reducing the fat, but really you can be quite strategic in how you want to shape the muscle of your body in a build phase, so that when you do the cut, you get to reveal the work that you've done. So now, understanding that, I'm going to enjoy a build phase for over a year, because it's really the most important part of this is you are creating the shape that you want to see once you're done the build, once you do a cut. So by the end of October, we were ready to do the cut. It was mainly, I was so sick of eating 3000 calories a day. If I was just eating takeaway, it would have been no problem, of course. But when you're eating oats, rice, chicken, veg, like I was still having steak, salmon, all that other stuff. But whole foods at 3000 calories is really difficult. It's a lot of food. So I was so overeating, and finally Scott was gracious enough to let me go into my prep phase. So we went down from 3000 to 2400 calories. So we reduced my calorie intake by 600. Now, there are different theories in cutting. Some people go really dramatic, like over 1000, and some go a little bit more moderate. We did the more moderate approach, and it worked really well. We didn't have to do a huge decrease in my calories. 2400 was once my maintenance, but at this point, when I went down to 2400, I actually was losing weight. So from end of October to January, I was eating that many calories. It felt really good. I actually couldn't believe I was losing weight off this, because it still felt like a lot of food. I think in the grand scheme of things, I still wasn't used to eating this many carbs, so it just felt like really easy for me. Then in January, we cut again. So I must have plateaued at that time, and when you plateau, it's time to make a change. So from 2400 calories, we dropped to 2000 calories. And I was there until mid-March. I was still losing weight, anywhere from 200 to 400 grams per week. It seemed pretty substantial. And I think once we got down to March, we dropped down to just 1800. 1800 calories was where I stayed until April. And probably for those last 3 weeks before competition, I was at 1600 calories. Now, as well, in April, we added my cardio a little bit more. So I was only doing 2 20-minute cardio sessions, which was the same as my build phase, but we just increased my steps. So my steps during my build phase was 8 to 10,000 steps, where now it was 10 to 12,000 steps. Now in April, we added the cardio. So I started doing 2 30-minute sessions a week, and then had that 10 to 12. Once we got closer to comp, we went up to 12,000 steps. So let's say like a week out, and we decreased my calories to 1,200 calories. So there was a pretty big drop there. I was doing 3 30-minute cardio sessions from states to nationals. So once we got to states, I stayed at that 1,200 calorie mark. I was still doing 3 30-minute cardio sessions a week. I was doing 12K steps. And I was definitely feeling like I was in a big diet then. That was hard. Mentally, I was really struggling. I know that might seem like a lot of calories for some people, but for me, being at 3,000 and decreasing more than 50% of my calories was definitely a lot. What's fascinating about this whole cut phase for me is just seeing how the body plateaus and how well this theory worked for me. So rather than going really hard right away and depleting, we just did like a slow and steady gradual decrease. And I think in the past, I had been too extreme with myself. And when you're too extreme, it just causes more binging. Where this, until probably I was at 1,600 calories in April, it didn't feel too insane. I still could macro match a lot of different foods in my day. I was still having things like almond butter, you know, like fattier foods, but just in smaller quantities. And so if you're someone who's wanting to diet, I really would encourage you to be with a coach and to do this really slow and steady, because why put your nervous system through more stress right away when you can do this with ease? So since the competition has ended just over 10 days ago, we basically went from 1,200, 1,300 calories up to 2,000 to start my reverse. So we're trying to recover me, get some weight on. But the idea with the reverse, which I'll show you next week, is we're basically just going to be increasing little by little, again, just to get into a higher maintenance phase. I would ideally love to be at 2,500 calories and that being my maintenance, so not losing or gaining, similar to what I was at the beginning of this whole process before going into a build phase. The prediction is, will my health phase be the same as it was at the beginning, or maybe will my health phase be a little bit higher? The idea is hopefully I have built more muscle mass in the last year so that that maintenance level should be at a little higher level. I honestly don't think I could stomach or get back into a build phase right away. I really want to just enjoy a health phase, focus on my hormonal health for a couple months before really starting to add that extra amount of calories in. I'm really curious of doing what they call like a maintain gain phase, where I don't gain too much and I really just focus on building what I can in a maintenance phase. I know it takes longer, but I just think for my digestion, it would be so nice to not be in an extreme cut or an extreme build. So I might play with that a little bit as time goes, but I'll definitely take you on the journey so you can see what's going on and how my body's reacting. I feel like this was a little bit all over the place. I hope that that made a lot of sense. If anything, I hope it just encourages a slow and steady, mindful process if you are doing a build or a cut. It was a 14-month process that I went through to see the changes that I did. So remember that time is going to pass anyways. And this idea about needing to be X amount of weight in 1 or 2 months is a yo-yo. And if you want to live and breathe your lifestyle in a way that you love, you just have to be enjoying the process now. And whatever you're doing now needs to be sustainable for tomorrow. If you found this interesting, give it a thumbs up. I'll be making a bit more of a recap of my reverse next week. I wanted to give myself a full 2 to 3 weeks, so I had a lot of information to send your way. It'll be a bit more of a day in the life so you can see what I'm eating. But other than that, I'm up 2 kilos and I'm super happy about it. I'm feeling a lot more energized in the gym, and I'm also sleeping way better. Oh, sleeping better as much as I can with a baby. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll chat soon.